Hello, sinners, and hail Sappho. It's your favorite femme princess, Narcissa DeVille, and welcome to Femme Makeup Chats. You know what I was actually thinking about a lot lately, and I want to know if you guys would want to see this. I'm probably going to do it anyway, regardless of it, if anyone wants to see it or not. I've been really thinking about doing a video, and I've made a few purchases. Shocking. I'm thinking though about doing like a, fashion show video where I like show off some of my favorite outfits and do like a whole type of thing. Maybe that would be like not a side video, but like a separate video from my normal type of content, just because I don't know. Maybe I could do like makeup and do like a normal just chat about what the fuck ever, not like a specific topic, and then like afterwards cut to like me showing off this fashion, because I do have these shoes that I'm very, very excited about. I know that sounds so like whatever, but I'm very, very excited about these shoes. I've been wanting them forever, but they're not going to come in till April, so I may just wait till April to do this video. And I guess that's probably a good time to do a video like this too, because then I could go like outside. I know, such a horrifying thought, right? Outside. Oh, also, not that anyone asked, but I have been getting into a certain YouTuber slash Tumblrina. I'm very, very late to this, so like, please don't at me, but I've been getting into strange eons lately. Is it aeons or eons? I think it's eons. And I think she and her girlfriend are so adorable, and I just love to see it. I love lesbian content. I need more lesbian content in my life. And so I've just been watching this, and it's so, so cute. Again, I'm super late to this party. I know you don't have to tell me. I know that I'm super late to this, but I just think they're so cute. And it's so funny because I actually think we started our channels around the same time, as far as I can tell, except just one of us is, just slightly doing better, just slightly, just a little. Well, let's put it this way. She's not talking about me on her channel. And that's like, I know that sounds kind of bitter, but it's not. I'm so, so happy. I love seeing lesbians succeed at anything. And I'm just very, very happy for her. So I love watching this. I've been like watching all these back videos kind of obsessively because I need all the lesbian content, and any video where she and her girlfriend are like doing anything, it doesn't matter. I'm just like, I'm on board. I need it. I love it. So that is the content I've been watching, in case anybody was even like a tiny bit curious as to what I watch in my free time or like YouTube watching time. It's that, or like Simpsons compilations. I don't know why. I can watch them on Disney Plus, but it's almost better to just watch compilations instead of watching like whole episodes. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I love to see lesbians succeeding. And honestly, we need more content like that. I think we need more YouTubers who I just want more gay people to watch. That's what I want. So if anyone has any recommendations of great like lesbian channels, please let me know, because I am starved for it. Also, like, okay, and I've said this before, but if you're new to my channel, you wouldn't have heard me say this, so I'm going to say it again. I still fantasize regularly about how much I would love just a butch femme couple channel. That's what I want. That's what I eventually would love for this channel to be, just like to evolve into just me and my butch partner just becoming like a couple channel and just being so cute. There was a couple channel that I used to follow on here, and I do not know what happened to them. I have not seen a video from them in quite some time. They just fell off the face of the earth. I'm kind of wondering if I'm still following them, or like my YouTube just like unfollowed them and I never noticed because I just haven't seen any videos from them in so, so long, which would be really sad. But, YouTube does what it does, so I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so I have to get into the meat of this video because I've kind of like, not tiptoed around it, but I've like been not talking about what this video is. I mean, obviously if you see the title, you know exactly what it is, but it is a topic that I felt inspired to discuss, let's say, just based on a lot of different things. And especially now, like watching more lesbian content, and just, I don't know, it's a lot of different things that have inspired this. So this video is, of course, going to be about lesbian imposter syndrome. Now, I've done a video before about just regular imposter syndrome. I mean, okay, so here's what it is. Here's what brought this conversation about. I've been thinking about this a lot because even though the video will not have come out by the time this video comes out, but I filmed a video that I'm going to be putting out next week, which is going to be my femme journey. Something about like sitting down and actually thinking about my journey as a femme and just how far I've come and like all of that really just reminded me of this feeling that I had, especially in the beginning. I wouldn't say I have it as much now. I would say I think I've gotten a lot better on this front, but in the beginning of my realizing I was a lesbian, I definitely experienced a lot more of the lesbian imposter syndrome. And I would classify it as like, I think where it comes from is I've gone the full spectrum. I've gone from, identifying as a, gay boy to trans straight woman to bi to now lesbian. And so there is part of me inexplicably, and I understand it, but like it's not real. It's just like in your head type thing. But there is part of me that does kind of feel like, okay, well, am I allowed to call myself this? Like, can I really say this? Or I was pretty sure before I knew what I was doing, and yet now, I'm very confident again, but what if I'm wrong? And so there is kind of that internal monologue too that I think plays into it. So if you know anything about imposter syndrome, you know that it's basically the idea that someone is going to think you're a fraud and they're going to figure out that like it's typically like in a career setting usually is where imposter syndrome comes in. Like, oh, people are going to figure out that I'm not as qualified to do this job as I think I am. I'm not as qualified. I don't know as much as I think I do. No matter how qualified you are. I mean, that's the thing about imposter syndrome is it's usually people who are, if anything, overqualified, but for whatever reason, there's that self-doubt. There's that wondering, like, am I as good as I think I am? Or, are people just like thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing? And it's a very interesting experience. I don't feel like I've ever had it as much in like a professional setting. Like, obviously I've not, my writing and my YouTube career are not the biggest. We've already established that. But I have had a lot of success. Like, when I was writing fanfic back in the day, I had quite a bit of success, and I didn't feel like, oh, people are going to find out that I'm not really as good of a writer as I think I am, or that everyone compliments me on, or something like that. Like, that was never a concern in my mind because I knew I was good. I had been doing it for years. When I first started writing, though, I think, anytime I would get a compliment from someone, I would always just assume, oh, you're just saying that because you have to. Like, my mother was kind of the first person to read a lot of my work, and she was always like, oh, this is really, really good. And I'm like, yeah, but you're saying that because you have to. And she, like, always insisted that she was not. And it took a long time for me to believe that. And it's not because, like, I don't believe my mother. It's just, there is that voice inside of you that's like, there's no way I am actually as good as this person is saying. There's no way that I'm as talented because, like, you have to... Oh, speak of the devil, she's calling. So, like, there's that self-doubt when it comes to someone who is close to you complimenting what, your art and what you're doing. And I think that's totally valid. Like, it makes total sense. It's just one of those things that you second guess yourself. But in this kind of situation, it's so much different because there's not really you're not like an expert on something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's really expert lesbians. Maybe I'm incorrect on that assumption, but generally speaking, it's not something you can be like an expert at. you can be an expert in history of lesbianism, but not like being a lesbian itself. So that kind of begs the question, where does the imposter syndrome come in? Where does that come from? What, what causes that? And for me, I think it's really just the fact that I was just so late to the party, like I was late to the Strange Eons party. I was late to the lesbian party in general. And that does cause me a lot of, or it has in the past. I do think I've improved quite a bit over the last few years from or like the last year, let's say, from where I was. But it is something that, I second guess myself sometimes, and I'm like, am I allowed to use this term? Am I allowed to call myself this? Because, I was so late to the party. And, it doesn't help that as much as I know the general community is not transphobic, there is like that little inner saboteur turf that can speak some hateful shit to you from time to time and be like, well, you can't call yourself this and you're not really this. I do think it's really important to discuss things like dysphoria, negative self-talk that we all kind of experience, especially as a trans woman. It can be very, very hard to talk about that, and so I kind of glossed over that in this video. But the general point that I was trying to make is just that sometimes I can experience negative self-talk in terms of feeling like because you're trans, you cannot also be a lesbian. And I certainly don't believe that in general. Like, I don't believe that you can't be trans and a lesbian. But there is sort of that, like, inner negative self-talk that I experience from time to time that's like, well, you're trans, so therefore you cannot call yourself a lesbian. And so that's kind of what I was trying to get at. I'm not sure if I really made that clear. And so, like, there is that to contend with as well, and I'm not going to pretend like that's not a factor for me and that doesn't play into it. And again, I do want to, like, emphasize this because I do think it's very, very important. Just because I have these thoughts about myself doesn't mean, or I've had them in the past, doesn't mean that I think them about everyone else. I am not anyone who gets to say who is and isn't a legitimate lesbian, who can and cannot use that word. So it is kind of funny that I feel for myself like, oh, am I allowed to use this word? Like, who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna, is there, some lesbian police who's gonna, well, let's hope not, who's gonna be like, no, you are not allowed to use that word. Like, no one's gonna stop you from calling yourself whatever you want. Whether or not they will agree with that is unrelated, but no one's gonna stop you regardless of whether or not, you quite fit or think you fit, or, whatever the reason is, no one's gonna stop you from using that term. They're just not. And frankly, like, it's kind of up to you. Like, if you stop using the word because you think you don't fit it, that's great, that's fine. But, like, no one can make you stop using a term that fits you. No one can make you stop identifying how you feel comfortable. We're not going to get into the discourse. That's not the point of this video. The point of it is I wanted to communicate this topic because I'm sure there are other people who have experienced this, who know what this is like, who have felt this before and thought, like, it's hard not to... Okay, sorry. I needed to... Oh, why do I keep getting this in my mouth? Okay. I know there's people who have felt similarly. I know there are people who have struggled with this and who have felt like, am I allowed to use this term for various reasons? There's a lot of reasons why you might second guess yourself and you might experience, lesbian imposter syndrome. I think the biggest one, like I said, for me has to just be, I've identified a lot of different ways, and sometimes that makes me second guess myself and second guess, whether or not I'm allowed to call myself something. And again, I don't feel it anymore. I experienced this more in the beginning when I first realized it. But now I'm a lot better because I know, I know who I am. I know how I feel. I think it's just because this is like, it's such a personal and difficult topic, to be honest. And I hate being vulnerable. Like that's just what the tea is. I hate being vulnerable. I'm trying to be better about it, but like, let's just call a spade a spade. Being vulnerable is difficult for me at best because I don't know. I've just not been good at it for a very, very long time. And what is more vulnerable than talking about the idea that, like, there's part of you that wonders, am I allowed to call myself a lesbian? Even though I know that I am. And, like, who's going to stop me? But it's like, there's that part of you anyway that is like, well, you know, what if I'm wrong? What if this isn't how I really feel? What if, you know, I change my mind again for the 50th fucking time? Then I'm like, okay, well, you've already changed it, you know, this many times. Like, what's another one? Who cares? I don't, I mean, I care because I don't want to come out again. I don't want to do this again. And I'm confident that I won't, but I don't know. I was pretty confident that I wouldn't ever come out again, you know, the first 12 times. So I don't want to be too cocky and challenge myself because, you know, that always goes so well. But I just have no earthly desire to date men ever again. And not that you know, I don't blame anyone who is happy with a man. Like, get your life, girl. If that's what makes you happy, do it. It's just not, it's not what I want. It's not what I feel in my soul, or approximation of a soul. And so I guess maybe that's the biggest issue, is that I don't want to admit that it's not a big fear that I have, but every so often, if I think about it, it is like a scary thought of like, what if I'm wrong about this? Like, what if I don't? What if I realize like, oh, this isn't what I want? Like, I don't want to do this again. 4 times has been really enough for anyone to have to come out. But like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to experience this again. I really, and I don't ever want to date men. Like, so I don't know what I would do at that point. Like, I guess I just wouldn't ever date anyone. I'd just be like, nope, shut it down. I don't care. I don't want to do it. I don't know. That's such a devastating thought to me. And I know that sounds like really dramatic, but I feel, and I think you know what it is? Here's what it is. And I did write this in my notes and I just haven't been looking at them. I was thinking about this. I think what the fear is that I don't want to lose this community that has meant so much to me. And I know that even if I realized I was bi, I would still be a part of the community. Bisexuals are a very important part of the queer woman sapphic community. So like, obviously I would not lose that. But I think that's what it is. And like, again, there's no desire whatsoever to date men. So it's kind of like just a fear in my head of like, what if? But I don't want to lose that community. And that's what scares me the most. The thought of like, you know, being ostracized from this community that means so much to me. And I kind of get in that respect why there are people who are very attached to the word lesbian, and maybe, you know, even when they're not really, maybe that's why it's hard for them to give up the word, because it's like, I'm attached to this community. This community has meant so much to me. This community has been so good to me. And I think sometimes it's hard to consider, like, what if you had to lose that? And so I imagine that's very, very difficult, because just on the theoretical sense of like, you know, what if I'm wrong, is makes me anxious and makes me sad, and like, no, these eyebrows are not giving, but it's okay. It's okay. They're not sisters. They're not even cousins. They're like people who know each other. Let's say that. These eyebrows are people who have met once. Hey, look, if it's good enough for Trixie Mattel, it's good enough for me. I just put that right in my eye. So, you know, it's very difficult because you've been all over LGBT land. Like literally all over the land. It's hard because you just feel like I don't want to lose that. I don't want to go back, you know? And so it's very personal and very emotional. And again, this is literally not even an actual thing. It's not like I'm literally facing this. It's just what's in my head. Like, you know what I mean? Just like the possibility of it makes me sad. And it's not even a like it's not happening. It's not a thing. But there's that like, oh, well, it's happened before. So like, it's so obnoxious. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so next up, I'm gonna change this around. I know what this video is supposed to be about, but I wanna like, I really bummed myself out thinking about all of that. So let's bring it back around. I am going to do something a little bit different here. So I'm trying to do a, oh my goodness. Okay. I'm trying to get some of the blush off of this because I want to do a orange and pink blush. And I'm going to use, because I've been using this for my blush color, this pink, the Fashionistas from Powerpuff Girls. I want to try the orange Girls Rock. I'm going to mix them together. Here's what's so funny about this. I remember watching Powerpuff Girls as a kid. I don't remember the Fashionistas being a statement that was ever said. So like, am I missing something here? Oh wow, that is a color choice that was made. Wow, that looked really light in the pan here. Okay, let's see if I mix them together. I don't know what I was like planning for this, but this is going to be very, very warm. Let's just say that. This is going to be, oh, it's like a salmony. Boy, talk about like a sunburn looking color. This is what happens to me. I like have this idea and then I execute it and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if this idea worked at all. This ultimately just looks red. This just looks red. Okay. Welp. Oh, boy. I don't know about this. I know Trixie is like such a big fan of orange or orange blush. I don't know about this for me. I don't feel the fantasy right now. Like, let's just say that I do not feel this fantasy. This is not giving. Oh my god. No, this is not giving the fantasy. Oh boy. Okay, well, we gotta commit now. I look like a clown. More so than usual. Like, I know I always look clowny, but this is like... Like, that's what this is giving. This is giving clown. Oh my god. I hate this. I hate this. Okay. Let's see if the... Oh my god, I hate this. Can I salvage this with more of the pink? Probably not. Maybe if I had done just orange, this would have been fine. But I decided to go outside of the box. Well, here's what's so funny, because I have this idea for another video where I'm going to do a blue blush and like blue eyes and blue brows. So I wonder how that's going to go comparatively. I'm thinking this is going to just be the experiments. I'm going to go, I finally found my Fenty Trophy Wife highlighter. So let's just see how this looks with everything else going on here. Why not? Let's just really make this a statement. Can you even see that? Is this showing up at all? Yeah, I mean, this makes a statement. That is for sure. Oh my God. I don't know what statement it makes, but it makes a statement. Oh, you know what? I'm going to publish this video as is, and it's going to be glorious because I think this look exemplifies how I feel about this subject. You know what? We're going to try and salvage this. Excuse the tape. No, it stuck to me. Okay, I don't have an orange lip, but I'm going to use the MAC Viva Glam Volume 1, one of my most beloved lip shades ever. And we're going to see if we can salvage this just a little bit. The answer is, like, no, it doesn't salvage it, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's just put it that way. You know what? I'm going to say it. This a little bit saves it for me. It's not perfect, but it a little bit saves this for me. Okay, so my final thoughts. I don't even know if I even remotely got across the points that I wanted to get. One of the other issues that I forgot to mention was one of the reasons that I felt this way, not even just the fact that I have been all across, you know, the LGBT spectrum. One of the other reasons that I've had lesbian imposter syndrome is because of the fact that I have been attracted to men. And there is part of me that's like, I know there are plenty of lesbians who have been attracted to men in the past. I know that. I know it happens. And yet there's like that part of me that's like, no, you've dated men. You can't be this, like, you can't identify this way. It's like that weird insidious voice in your head that like tells you like just awful things. I have found, for me, one of the ways to really fight that is honestly just to put a name to it. And for me, that name is usually either my grandmother or my father, because both of them were pretty shitty to me growing up. So they seem like the most accurate candidates to be the voice of just all the bullshit in my head that says, you can't do this, you can't call yourself this, you're not good enough, you're not talented enough, whatever it is. Like, it's always that inner saboteur voice. I find calling it a name of someone that you recognize, and anytime you hear it, you're like, okay, girl, like, that's fine. Like, you do you. I'm not entertaining this. I am not listening to this. I have no interest in this. And I think that's actually been really helpful for me. I think putting a name to it, putting a voice to it that isn't just this abstract, like, self-hating thing, I think that's made a big difference in my life. And so, like, generally speaking, I would say now I deal with lesbian imposter syndrome less than I did. I wouldn't say it's entirely gone away. I mean, obviously there are still times where I'm like second guessing myself and I'm wondering, you know, am I allowed to use this term? But I don't know why. There's no like logical reason behind it, which I guess makes sense because there's no logical reason for any imposter syndrome. Like, imposter syndrome, just like any like anxiety or depression or any kind of like mental thing, like mental health thing, isn't logical. It's not meant to be logical. It's just your brain talking shit about you for no good reason. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. It just is. And so in that respect, I do kind of feel like I said, I don't deal with it as much as I did, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I hope that if anyone else is experiencing this, and that's like 100% of the reason I made this video is because I know that there are going to be people who have experienced this themselves. I know there's going to be other lesbians who have been like, am I allowed to use this term? Do I really fit in this narrative? And honestly, even as a butcher of femme, I know plenty of people who have been like, you know, I identify a lot with butch as a term, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use it. I identify with femme, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use that. You know, there's all these kind of things where I think there's like this internal policing of our own mind and like what we're allowed to identify as and what we're allowed to call ourselves. And that's really, really, really difficult. So I hope that in some way, I know this video has been like chaotic and all over the place, and I don't even know if I've made like any of the points that I wanted to make, because like I said, I did all these notes and barely looked at them. Like, let me look at them now and see, like, well, there goes that lipstick. Let me look at them now and see if I touched on some of the points that I wanted to touch on here. I just read through my notes and I just remembered there was another thing that I didn't discuss that I did want to get across. One of the other reasons that I think I have dealt with this lesbian imposter syndrome as well is because I don't have any experience dating women. Like, as much as I talk like an expert and like have all these thoughts of like what I would want and how much I love butches and studs and like all of these things that I'm so vocal about, I don't actually have any experience with it. And that is very frustrating, and that is very like, that I think adds to the issue that I have in my own head of like, well, how can you call yourself this? You don't have any experience with it. You've never dated a woman. You've never, much less a butch. Well, that's not true. I have dated women. Let me not. That's a whole other topic, and that's its own thing. Who is calling me? Cut my eye care. Okay. I cannot catch a break. Oh my God. I cannot catch a break filming this video. I keep getting interrupted, which, to be fair, when it was my mother, it was fine, but this was just my eye doctor. So that's, hopefully she's going to give me contacts, because I need to be able to see doing these videos. It's very, very frustrating when I can't see trying to do these videos. Okay. Let's go. So, oh my God. Okay. Let's try this again. Back to square one. We were talking about experience. So yeah, I mean, I think not having experience dating a butch does make me sometimes feel like very, I don't want to say intimidated, but it does feel like, oh, okay. So like, are you, like, can you call yourself this if you've never had that experience? But then I was thinking about it, and I was remembering, like, when I was in high school, I knew I was gay. I mean, I knew I was gay from like 13, but like, I think I came out officially when I was 18, because I was just so tired of people making assumptions and, deciding they knew who I was anyway. So I was like, you know what, fine. I'm going to come out. I'm going to be public and vocal and all of those things. And I'm going to be the sassy gay friend. And that was it like worked for me. Like, I'm just going to say it. This was 2010. It's all I knew, and I was very successful with it. I don't recommend it. I'm not proud of that time in my life, but that is a whole other story. Again, that will be part of probably a little bit part of my femme journey in the next video. But basically, like, that is how I handled myself. And I had a lot of guys who like to be like, well, if you've never been with a girl, how do you know you wouldn't like it? And I was always like, well, if you've never been with a guy, how would you know you didn't like it? Like, that just, that very like bitchy teenage gay boy thing that you do, that I did. That bitchy streak still exists within me. Don't you worry. But yeah, it was just one of those things that like, I realized, I'm like, look, if the high school version of myself could understand that you don't actually have to have that experience to still know who you're attracted to, then I think 31-year-old me can keep that in mind and not second guess myself. And that's the thing. Part of me does wonder if like part of the reason that I second guess myself comes from the fact that I have been all over the LGBT land. Like, I wonder if that's part of the reason, because I had zero doubts in my mind when I just identified as a gay boy. I had no questions, no qualms, no doubts. I knew I was out loud and proud. Like, no one was going to tell me different about myself. And I did have one person, my best friend's girlfriend at the time, who looked me dead in the face in art class and was like, "You're going to be a woman someday." And I was like, who the fuck do you think you are? I was so livid inside. Obviously, she was correct. She read me for filth. But at the time, I was like, excuse you? Who are you? What do you think you're... Like, I was so mad. I was so mad. But, lo and behold, she was correct. I wonder if she saw the lesbian thing coming too. I don't know. I certainly didn't see it coming, but that's a whole other, like, thing. But yeah, so I think that all plays into it too. But I ultimately made this video because I wanted people who have experienced this before. I wanted other lesbians who have felt any kind of imposter syndrome, any kind of self-doubt, or like, am I allowed to use this term? Is this other thing precluding me from calling myself a lesbian? I wanted them to know that, hey, it doesn't have to be that way. You can just say, yes, I'm allowed to call myself whatever the fuck I want. I know who I am. I'm not going to let anyone else make me second guess myself, including myself, because ultimately, like, your inner saboteur, that's what it is. It's me. It's all me. It's all coming back to me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. This video has been a journey. I cannot imagine what this must sound like to anyone else listening to me. I probably sound like a lunatic. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, comment down below, tell me your experiences with lesbian imposter syndrome if you feel like you've ever felt it. I don't know if I fully explained what it is, but it's kind of that like self-doubt of like, am I allowed to call myself a lesbian? Am I allowed to identify this way because of whatever precluding factor in your mind makes you feel that way? And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, comment. I would love to hear other people's stories. I would love to hear other people's experiences. I would love to know that I'm not alone here. And I'm sure I'm not, because I've already seen asks that other blogs have gotten, so I know that this is something other people deal with. But I need to hear it. I want to know. So yeah, comment down below. Tell me your story. Feel free to subscribe. Join me over on Patreon, where you can see more of this unhinged shit show. I want to do like more lengthy versions on Patreon, not necessarily unedited, but certainly like extended cuts. I would love to do other topics that like maybe are Patreon exclusive topics if you want to see those. Yeah, I want to do more content. I've been really, really enjoying this. So hopefully we can keep this going. Okay. And until next time, stay devilish. Oh, God, up close, this look is not it. I'm not feeling this. That's what I gotta say. Okay. Well, another video in the books.